in life, there's certain things that will flex and adjust and other things that won't flex and adjust. So if your paid traffic isn't working, there's usually two reasons. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're here. It's going to be with a little hesitation, then we both go. I love it.
We're about to kick off, and you said a phrase that I love. So we're digging into some funnel plumbing today. So some funnel plumbing foundations, as it were. And specifically, what do you do if your ads aren't working? And a lot of times for most folks, this is like Facebook ads or Meta ads or even TikTok ads. What do you do if your top of funnel ads aren't working? I want to get into this because I have been a big proponent of paid media. Specifically, if this is if you're not currently running paid media, or even if you are, I think it's a good refresher to think through like types of traffic. It comes down to how do people know you exist. And so I think I've heard and assembled this idea of you have owned, it's usually like email marketing or like you've got their contact list. There's borrowed. This is like if you've assembled them in like a group, maybe these are followers, like they like and they follow your stuff. Subscribers on YouTube, that's like borrowed. You know, whether you can reach them or not is kind of platform specific. They decide. Bot, that's what we're kind of talking about right here, is the paid traffic. Typically, this is I'm buying impressions, I'm buying visibility, and then earned referrals or endorsements, right? So other people are sending you traffic because you were actually good. And so recapping on the four there, you've got your owned, borrowed, bought, and earned. And those are your four buckets. And no matter what, you're capped by the number of people who know you exist. You can't have a business that exists if no one knows. You're not going to make money if no one knows you exist. So this is a constant problem because your business grows in two ways: more customers and more value per customer. And how do people know you exist? One of those four buckets. You've got their emails. You re-engage them. You've got them assembled in a group. You're paying for ads, paying for the visibility, or other people are endorsing you or sending you referrals your way. And so we're talking about that third one, that bot. What happens when the bot bucket doesn't work? And a lot of times where I'm getting people kind of recoming with this problem is on the early stage. So they're on the newer side. They know if people don't know I exist, I'm not going to have a growing business. And they've heard me say, I like the exchange of an unreplenishable, or I'm exchanging a replenishable asset like money. I'm paying for repeated visibility. And if you do it well, you can cash flow this thing. So it's like, that's what we commonly have, this strategy where I will spend X amount of dollars. And even if I only make 1.5X dollars in that first month, it's usually a flow of like, those are the early buyers. I might have even more than that in certain terms of leads. And now I've got more owned traffic and all sorts of ways to continue that monetization there. But if you start off and you're like, I spent this much money on paid ads and it's just not working, I literally have zero leads. And so I want to kind of pull back the curtain on what we do and how I think about it. And then also what I would say for someone who is brand new. So we'll look at like brand new, our philosophy, and then somewhere in the middle, right? Where it's like, you've been doing it, but like, let's consider like maybe there's different actions here. So the first thing to understand, 4 buckets of traffic, this is not your only solution. You don't have to run paid ads. There's plenty of businesses for their growth goals. You hear it all the time, like local businesses, like we're referral only. Like, congrats.
It's not something to brag about, honestly.
It's not the most predictable, but it is acceptable. Like here's a good example of referral only, and you have like big, meaningful businesses. I'm curious, Tyler. So I'm thinking of an entire category. So what can you guess the category I'm thinking of is a big category. It exists and grows to phenomenal sizes, even though it's referral only.
So would it be network marketing?
There we go. MLM network marketing, right? There's an entire business category. Yeah. Bonus points for Tyler. Network marketing, multi-level marketing, like this MLM space, like they don't run ads. Their entire model is referral marketing. It's like you go to your network, you market to that network, you get more people to market to their network. And so it's like, there's legitimate humongous companies. Say what you will, you got all sorts of discrepancies about the network marketing space. But they've grown to incredible sizes, and their strategy for traffic, for visibility, is not paid traffic. It's entirely earned on some level. It's earned traffic, right? It's really what it is. And so you don't have to do this, but so you've got big examples there. For us, talk through what our philosophy is about it. I use it as a pressure to fix the other things, right? So it's like in life, you usually have like, there's certain things that will flex and adjust and other things that won't flex and adjust. So if your paid traffic isn't working, there's usually two reasons. It is the wrong message or it is the wrong audience. That's really all it is. Wrong message, wrong audience. In Facebook, due to privacy laws and compliance and all that sort of stuff now, we have less and less control over ensuring it's the exact right audience. And so sometimes it really is the wrong audience. So like, I'll give you an example. Someone was brand new. They started running and I was like, man, this is proven creative. To be fair, they were not running it to US based. And so I was like, okay, my benchmarking for US audiences, it's a different audience. So I might just be off in terms of estimating what your country, might be in terms of acceptable benchmark there. But it was literally producing nothing. And so you've got message, you've got audience. And so here's what I said. So they ran amounts. One consideration is everything works. It's just to what extent it works. And when you run low volumes, these are all relative, but at a low enough volume, nothing works. Ooh, think about that. Everything works to some extent, but if you test it, there is a low enough volume where nothing works. And so understanding that, I don't know where that threshold's going to be. So a piece of it is they did not spend enough to find, they could not get even like one lead, like one real lead. And to be fair, in this experiment, all in, I don't know if they even spent a full $1,000. And so this is where I appreciate it. I'm thinking like years old advice. Some people would say like, if you're running an offer, you're testing it, you need to spend at least $1,000. Just like throw that away as $1,000 for learning. Some of the pieces that I was kind of like trying to help them through is there was a lot of like 5 different experience, like tests at $5 a test. So there was some unnecessary waste in just trying to optimize way beyond where you should be starting from. And so once again, you run all these low volume tests and it seems like nothing's working. It's like, well, yeah, because you haven't actually given enough volume to find the threshold of its effectiveness there. But my advice did change to them. So I was like, okay, we don't have a benchmark, and they were having like wildly different CPM. So their cost for just the impressions was way out of here. I was like, okay, we don't even know if your audience is right. They were kind of getting some experiences here where it's like the people who are engaging and feedbacking, like maybe some of their own page audience wasn't their ideal audience, right? So if like your friends and family members are all the people who engage with your stuff, and Facebook's like, wow, let me keep on sending it to like, really supportive moms. You're like, that's not the wrong audience, right? Because I looked at their creative, I was like, this is good. The messaging is good. I suspect it was a little bit more of wrong audience. So here's what I told them. It's like, so you got those 3 other buckets of traffic. Let's go after those other buckets of traffic, keep on gathering a feedback loop on our website of the audience. So for us, we have a pixel on our pages, and I realize a good starting point for us as I'm going out and running like cold traffic, it might be like a lookalike of visitors to our website, because we know if they visited our website, chances are they're actually closer to our ideal folks. That's usually like a degree past, like they just clicked on a call to action. They might actually be our customers, whatever it is. But if you're starting out early and you've run amount of money, or you don't even have the money to run ads, think about it. You got other buckets of traffic. You can go out there and other activities in those other spaces to start to build up an audience there. We've talked on previous shows about kind of this more farming method. So that's like that earned. It's MLM, like start and plant some seeds to get referrals. We did the show because that is what I recommend for new people. But let's say Facebook ads aren't working. You're new. Probably need to go to the farming method. It's like shift over there. I also said to them that I typically am not in favor of cold email. All things work. It's just to what volume. And I see this happen a lot with cold email, where it's like cold email works if you're sending, let's say, 10,000 emails a day. Like you need to spend, it's like 3 million emails a month. You will find the threshold there, because there's people who are like, yeah, the effectiveness is I get 0.01%. It works. Like, great. You need very high numbers there.
Yeah. And I think each of these buckets is a skill. So there is a little bit too of like cold email is a skill. Like if you haven't done that, you're probably not going to learn it in the first bucket, in the first round. But the other ones, like the ones that you're suggesting, are things that most people have a little bit more experience in.
Yeah. And I think the really what I would defer to, it's kind of in that earned But so I basically told them focus on earned traffic. And how do you earn that traffic? You can plant the seed to get referrals. You can also kind of like send cold value just for visibility. I asked them, are you in any Facebook groups of their audience? They were. So I set this goal for them. I said, do 100 outreaches a day to guarantee the right people are seeing your message. I think your message works. I think you've got quality. I think you've got content here. But I'm looking at Facebook and you're paying for an audience and they don't know how to put the right people in front of you. So just guarantee the right people see it. I don't like going to email because it feels so disconnected. People spend all this time like in the mechanism of it. But if I said send 50 cold DMs on Instagram and 50 cold DMs direct to people's websites, where you literally use their contact form and like you're literally typing it, and then you've got 100 outreaches a day and you help one person a day. I was like, in a month that you will get customers.
Yeah. Cause you'll have fixed the knowing who you're selling to, the audience side, right? It also fixes that from Facebook's thing. Facebook can now build a lookalike audience because of the right people visited it.
Yeah. And so that's what I wanted to hack, is I was like, even if you cold DM them and they're like, I don't want to buy from you, if you get them to click on your page, whatever, put something there so they go to your website to check you out to see if you're legit. Now you're essentially seeding this audience. You're telling Facebook, these are the people. And so if you really do this for a month, you'll have 3,000, at least, hopefully, I can't guarantee that this will happen, but I gave them the best strategy. I was like, this is what the cold DMs work for me. And so one example was, and I did not invent this. I forget who I heard it from first, but think back. If you've had a website for the last like 6 years, there was some brand of something that would just like spam contact forms. I forget what it was. And I'll have to look back. I haven't seen them probably actually since COVID. So I'm thinking like, this is a thing that this was like, for me, it was like 2012 to 2019. And it was almost like it was kind of a free chat widget, thing, like Talk To or something like that. But I remember I was like, man, this is super clever, the messaging. So I kind of developed this. And now they did it in like a mass spammy way. If you do it as a human, you're like, I think this could work, because it always got my attention. So it's like, hey, I'm reaching out on your contact form because I noticed you didn't have a chat widget. If you want, I actually have a solution that makes it super easy. And we tend to see people get more leads because they prefer to use a chat widget than to have to search and dive for your contact form. If you want, or like if you have 15 minutes, it'd take me almost no time to demo this for you. Feel free to text me. This is my cell. And that's the copy. And so if you're going to, if part of your offer is making people more accessible and a chat widget does it, it's such a binary thing. And it's so cool. I was like, they're not problem aware. And in my contact message, I'm saying like, hey, I had to use this because you didn't have the better thing. I actually happen to have the better thing. It would take me 15 minutes to demo it. I think it'd be no brainer. And so it works. And like I said, I learned it from, I wish I could remember this guy. I always associate with the guy's name, but there was like some avatar, but he was doing it in the most bulk spammy way. But I bet you it was working. I bet you that's why he did it. Like he started off doing his 100 a day manual. And he's like, Matt, forget this. I'm scaling this method because it works. And so now you got to find ways to like differentiate, stand apart, and just do it. Like pick out, hunt. I told him, I was like, you could find a list of 3,000 of your ideal prospects and just make it like 50 a day. They're going to reach out on Instagram, 50 a day. They're going to reach out on their website, and see who people are going to visit your website. So now you're building that audience of like, these are my good folks. And then you might even get some conversations, because conversations create cash. And so that's what I was advising them to do. So the big takeaway is if your paid traffic, your bot traffic isn't working, there's other buckets. I say focus on earned. How do you earn that? By identifying a problem for folks, pointing them to your website, so you're like aggregating that audience. And then I said, genuinely go and help folks. So in these groups, find someone who's like, I'm struggling, and just be like, hey, I can hop on Zoom right now and just try to help them. And chances are, just by helping them, and then if you're like, oh, also I have this chat widget, like they'd be like, thank you. You just helped me for free. I'd love to buy your thing. So that was that category. For us, and I apologize if I'm not staying in order here. For us, I use it as that pressure of I can't adjust. So paid traffic isn't working. It's either audience or it's messaging. Now I know the audience is on point. I know we're sending to the right audience. So then I always use the pressure as the messaging. And I like that, because your messaging should change and adjust and adapt with time. Can you imagine, like for a brand, your messaging is like, that's your first impression. most times there. And it's like saying, should your fashion change as time goes on? Should you like adjust your styles, my frames, my clothing? It's like, yeah, I should be relevant and attractive to the era that we're in. And so that's just market feedback. So now when paid advertising stops working, it tells me we need to adjust our style. We need to adjust our first impressions here. We need to be better about connecting to the problems they actually want solved. And so I would always prefer never to stop running the ads, always to adjust our messaging and use that feedback loop as like, hey, ads aren't going to turn off. So we're just going to either waste money or make the adjustment to be better. And for us, I appreciate that pressure there. And for that middle category, man, I actually think in the middle category, this is where I see it is people are more transactional than relational, or in their business in general. So these are usually one-offs. This is what I've seen it most common is people are selling one thing. It's a one-time buy. And the actual buying experience is you see my ad, you buy my stuff, and then I never try to sell you anything ever again. It's like you bought it all. And those are the folks where it's difficult because maybe your messaging fatigues and you have no long-term play. Like if I go a month and it's like it doesn't work, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent X and I only got point X back. I get to take a longer vision to be like, well, I'm gonna treat my owned audience well. And it circles back to this podcast I heard years ago from Frank Kern, where he was saying like his 2 regrets. This is before I knew Frank. And I remember he saying his two regrets were that it was essentially like he didn't spend enough on ads and he misjudged, like he killed campaigns too early. Because you go on, you realize the longer you're in it, you're like, you look back and you're like, my goodness, I shut off a campaign in 2016 because I was like, oh my gosh, the cost per lead increased to 80 cents. And you look back and you're laughing, you're like, I should have spent all of it.
Well, especially if you look at lifetime value of the customer, you're like, okay, that might have been a loss on the first month, but man, by month 6, those were my most profitable clients. And I've always noticed that the businesses that have the longest customer value time frame have the highest chance of like extreme profitability, like extreme growth.
Yeah. And so this is a challenge. I know it's painful in that moment. But if you find yourself where it's like ads are no longer working and you realize, like what I would personally do, like I told you, what do we do is I use that pressure to change other things. Because if ads were working, you know your audience. You know how to reach the right audience. It is messaging and it might be offering. That's kind of part of your messaging there. And the painful thing is, and I've seen people do this, is they're like, I would rather turn off the pressure to make this work than to just like turn it off and let it scale down to like kind of like a minimum acceptable space where maybe it's you got some referrals that are happening organically or whatever it is. And so I guess, I'm not trying to impose judgment here. And so there is from one side of it's like you get to design whatever you want, so do whatever you want in your business. But if you've got growth goals and turning off your traffic feels misaligned there, what I would recommend is keep running the ad spend because that's what creates the pain that forces you into an action. And I would talk with as many of my customers as I could. And I just got encouraged to do this. So this is a recent thing. If I've re-engaged conversations with customers, it's difficult, like practically speaking, when you start to get a mass of customers, like I literally can't, you feel like you tell the story of like, I can't talk to everyone. And inevitably you talk to some people, but then you realize you only talk to the people that like you really, I don't say you shouldn't be, but the most important people to talk to are actually your happiest customers because they'll tell you what they'll buy next. They'll tell you what the problem is that they're dealing beyond the problem they already solved. And in those conversations, you might identify that there's an easy thing to break out here. I'll leave you with this last story. It's not traffic related, but just on that last piece. Is I saw an interview with a brand that went from, I think it was like COVID. Stop me, Tyler, if we've talked about the story before, but it was in the last 4 years. I don't think we have. They went from 0 to 48 mil. And I think their number of customers was something stupid low. Like, well, I feel like for that many, it was like 4,000 customers. That's what they had to get to like this incredible breaking point. They sold. So they sold for 48 mil. It wasn't like they necessarily made that. I don't know what their actual revenue was there. But they created that much value. Like they built a business from scratch, sold it for 48 mil. Like it's a pretty big win. Their secret was they started calling all their customers. And so they're literally the founder CEO. He started like delegating everything, and he just spent like 35 hours a week physically calling his customers. And he just saw this cycle where it's like, the more I talked to them, the more they told me exactly what they wanted to buy. So it was more of an e-com brand. It was more, it very easily could have been that business that's like, I sell you one thing and then it's done. And so then I keep on, I basically exhaust that with an audience. And instead, as it slowed, he kept on going back and he kept on being like, man, the feedback loop, they literally would tell me exactly what they want to buy. So he just kept on like adding product line to product line, product line. And so it's like, if you have whatever, 4,000 customers, but they're always waiting in line to buy your next product, it's incredibly powerful. Just creating that like just strong, customer relationship.
What I really like about this episode and what you shared is that if your ads aren't working, there's other solutions than just trying to fix the ads, right? It's like, how do you take a step back, look bigger at the business, and remember, like, those are people, and so you've got to figure out what is it that the people actually want, and just taking that bigger approach to the business, I think, is really smart.
Yeah. So this is hopefully helpful to folks. I know it comes up times of time. Ads aren't working. And so just to recap, you got 4 buckets of traffic. If ads aren't working, you're brand new, I'd say go after a different traffic source. Sometimes you can get lucky with coaching and like kick it out of the park because you know the ad's going to work, but it's usually audience or messaging. And so if the audience is wrong, go find a way to get a better audience. If you have proven out the audience, I say keep doing it. Allow the pressure to force you to change your messaging, change your offer, because of those buckets. I love them all, but I cannot as predictably grow as I can with paid traffic because it's a easy exchange, where if we just had it, hire a new salesperson, need more booked appointments. We literally pulled the lever and almost to the T, it hit exactly what we wanted, like we planned for. So it just gives you an extra predictability in planning. It's hard to build, but once you have it, it is a pretty sweet lever to have in your arsenal. So hopefully that's helpful.